Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 406, Lore and Shelter. Edward POV. From the old man's memories, I learned the lore of the world. 45 years ago, the world ended. A meteor carrying an extraterrestrial virus fell from the sky, releasing judgment upon mankind. Simple enough. I shrugged as I listened. Half of the human race was infected almost instantly, and those who didn't turn were slaughtered by those who did. Within a single year, 10 billion people dwindled to barely a million scattered survivors. Humanity should have been erased, yet some refused to die. Among the ruins, people discovered that the monsters carried crystallized cores inside their bodies. It reminds me of a lot of stories I've read before. The weakest, the gray core, when consumed, allowed a human to resist the virus longer. Their immune systems hardened, their bodies became tougher, and they could breathe in the poisoned air without falling sick. The yellow cores, born from stronger zombies, granted something more, a spark of mutation that bloomed into abilities. One survivor might find wings sprouting from his back, granting him brief flight. Another might vanish into the shadows, their body molded for stealth. Others grew armored skin, claws, or speed that rivaled the infected themselves. People call these mutants warriors, but some have lost themselves with their newfound strength, becoming tyrants instead, the old man said with hazy eyes. Those who survived long enough to claim a green core found their powers evolving. Their first ability sharpened to frightening heights, or a second one awakened, weaving them further from humanity and closer to the monsters they hunted. Each human mutation was unique, shaped by their hidden aptitude, their will to survive, and the cruel chance of the virus. Yet even with power, the higher levels of infection loomed beyond reach. No human alive could fight a level 4 zombie alone, for the pink cores they carried were too dangerous to claim. Blue cores, born of level 5 creatures, were spoken of only in whispers, and the rainbow core of a level 6 monster was more myth than fact. A promise of godhood, or madness, depending on who told the story. But I got all the cores at once though, I muttered, checking the rainbow core I'd taken from the White Witch of the Northern City. I crunched on the gray core to build up some immunity, as I pulled my helmet back. The indicator told me that I wasn't infected, but still, I didn't want to keep the helmet on for the entire month. The zombie I killed had a title, for she was a nightmarish existence to the survivors. If she set her eyes on someone, she would obsessively hunt them, just as she followed the old man's teammates back to the encampment and slaughtered the 2,000 people who lived there. Now that I think about it, she is pretty unique compared to the others. More intelligent, I muttered. Thank goodness I handled that early. If she had continued to hunt me and stumbled into the research lab I was heading toward, she might have destroyed the equipment there and interfered with the research. As I thought back on the lore of this world, it felt familiar, but at the same time, like a mixture of a lot of novels I'd read before. It's simple enough to understand. Evolved zombies fight against evolved humans. To get to the research center in Tanuki City, yes, highly referential to Resident Evil's Raccoon City, I turned on the suit's flight mode and flew toward the city, 500 kilometers away. I didn't kill the old man. I left him there after giving him some nutritious food. He had dulled the blade of his spear, only wanting to rob me instead of killing me. He had been starving for 2 whole months now. In this world, even mushrooms could turn you into a zombie. People could barely eat anything, as everything was infected, the crops, the jungle fruits, the beasts. Some decided to resort to cannibalism to feed themselves. I had to admire the old man's morals for not wanting to resort to that. The old man had told me that as long as the Pteranodon, The pterodactyl-like creature I'd seen at the beginning ruled the skies. No one should dare to fly. But the mutant animal only flew during the day and slept at night. The sun was already down, so there was no problem for me to do this except for the few flying beasts I encountered. One of which was a three-headed owl. I managed to kill it with one swing of my sword. Surprisingly, they too had cores inside their bodies. This one had a green core, the level 3 core. Finally! My eyes brightened up underneath the helmet as I saw the towering black building at the middle of Tanuki City. There used to be perimeter defenses around the city, but they had been breached. However, the research lab was still intact since it had its own defense system. But it seemed that whatever defenses they used to have weren't working anymore, as the power had been cut off by the tremendous damage from fighting the zombie horde. I flew through the broken window in the building, and saw a lot of still intact medical equipment there. Yes! I pumped my fist in celebration. The first thing I did was to identify the machines, and then bring them all up to one floor. I picked the floor where the windows were still intact. Finally putting my backpack on the floor, I took out a small android core which I had fashioned into a small nuclear reactor to power up all of the machines. Before the second day began, I had already set up everything to study the virus here. Oracle, connect to the research facility mainframe. I ordered my AI. Understood, there's a lingering intelligence inside the mainframe. Should I devour it and take over completely? I was interested in otherworld AIs, but I didn't want to split my focus. Just devour it. Understood. The gray AI was killed in just a few seconds. Its terabytes of data were swallowed by Oracle easily. The Canopy Corporation was a huge pharmaceutical company in this world before the zombie apocalypse happened. They had tried to cure the world, but were only halfway there before the zombie horde attacked their facility, prompting them to escape from the lab hurriedly. There's a fallout shelter underneath this research lab, Oracle said, surprising me. I asked, are there survivors? He said, the fallout shelter isn't connected to the mainframe or any other energy source. If there were survivors, they would have died a long time ago from being trapped inside the concrete compound without a way out. They could use alternative energy. Maybe they had evolved humans with an electric power. That way, they could stay off the grid if they used them as a battery pack. I guessed at the possibility of the inner workings of the shelter. In any case, if they weren't bothering me, I wouldn't go and bother them. 5 days passed by in a flash. I had learned everything the pharmaceutical company had in their data storage. I also learned the year for this world. It was 2073. So the meteor had fallen in 2028. The society here was a bit more advanced. They had managed to cure cancer in the 2000s and already had smart products in the 90s. I also learned about their research to save crops from the airborne viruses. Just like the cure, that research was only studied halfway. I also found an interesting machine there. It was called the replicator. Basically, it was used to replicate medicines in order to ensure easy manufacturing for a worldwide pandemic crisis. Then, they distributed the material using an airborne transmission, a gas cloud like in The Amazing Spider-Man. Their data was really helpful to my research. The alien pox, as I called it, had some similarities in its characteristics with the zombie virus. I think in just 10 more days, I'll be able to crack the virus and find the antidote for the alien pox. After 7 days, the grain pills can no longer satiate me. I need real food, I muttered, popping the brown-colored rice pill into my mouth. Using the seeds I brought, I set aside a section of the lab to create a hydroponic greenhouse. Aqua's purification spell cleansed the soil and water of any trace of the zombie plague, and I rigged a system of UV lamps to supplement the thin shafts of sunlight filtering in through the reinforced windows. Tomatoes, potatoes, spring onions, beans, even bananas, were sprouting in neat rows. With the plant growth spell running through the roots, I could already see tender green shoots pushing up, defiant against the sterile concrete around them. In 3 days they would be ripe. I was also using the crops to study the data left behind by the scientists, about turning the crops into virus-resistant crops suitable for humanity's ingestion. The quickest way for it to happen was to powderize the zombie or beast cores, and then mix them with the soil. I was testing it out with different colored cores to see if they would do anything. I should take a bath. I hadn't moved from the floor in a week now, and I smelled like garbage. I could use a clean spell, but I wanted to clean myself in real water. So I grabbed a large drum can, cleaned it up, and then used a water spell to fill it up before using fire attribute chakra to heat it up. Ah, I moaned as I took the bath. I will spare 15 minutes to take a bath, then I'm going to go back to work, I told myself. I couldn't relax, not until I found the cure, and until I was sure I could save Jenna and the rest of the people in my world. A huge monster suddenly dropped to the front of the building. A 20-meter-tall, eagle-looking flying behemoth screeched as it landed. I sighed and then slowly got out of the bath. I can't even get 2 minutes of peace around here. Since day 1, I had been besieged by multiple hordes of zombies and beasts. Day 1, 30 blade zombies came knocking on the front door. Day 2, 30,000 humanoid ants. Day 3, 5,000 fishman-looking monsters that came out from the river at the back of the city. Day 4. A swarm of 3-meter-tall bees. Day 5, mushroom army, 2-meter-tall walking mushrooms with arms and legs. Day 6, level 4 giant black snake, 200 meters tall. Now, this motherfucker. They seemed to be attracted to the level 6 core I had in storage. The creatures were drawn to the immense energy radiating from it, since they needed cores for their own evolution. I had consumed enough cores to reach level 3 of the evolved human stage, currently digesting the green ones. No new abilities had awakened, but the green cores granted me something else, a powerful healing factor and an incredible adaptability boost in every environment. My physical strength also surged. My chakra level quadrupled. My mana became more dense. At this point, I no longer needed to rely on Uchiha Madara's cards to match his level of destructive force. I grabbed my black meteorite sword and leapt through the window, completely naked. One-handed sword style. Dragon slaying. I muttered in a cold tone, swinging the blade in a downward arc. A bluish wave of sword energy erupted from its edge, slicing the eagle clean in half from head to tail. The creature's eyes rolled white, and it crashed to the ground without even getting the chance to strike. A pink core? The ants carried green ones. The fishmen were green too. The black snake is blue, they're getting stronger and stronger. I sighed, prying a baseball-sized core from the eagle's body before burning the remains to ash with a fireball jutsu. Afterward, I cleaned myself up and put on a bathrobe I found in the facility's worker rest area. The room had beds and pantries for researchers who worked overnight. I yawned, exhaustion finally catching up to me. I hadn't slept in 7 days. Maybe I should rest. The perimeter detection system I'd set up with Oracle ensured I would know what was happening within a 100-mile radius around the lab. Nothing stirred, so I figured it was safe to get some sleep. My suit moved on its own, functioning as my assistant thanks to the automatic mode I'd programmed for the cure research. Once I put it back on, I let myself fall asleep inside it. The perimeters had already been inputted, and Oracle required some time to complete the analysis. I allowed myself 6 hours of rest. My observation hockey flared suddenly, dragging me awake. Oracle's voice rang in my ear at once. Sir, 2 life forces are climbing the stairs, heading toward your location. I yawned, stretching lazily as I rose. Don't worry. They're humans, and harmless ones at that. Compared to me, they were pitifully weak, even weaker than the old man I'd met before. Where did they come from? I asked. Oracle responded. Unclear. They appeared suddenly on the 3rd floor. 3rd floor? I muttered, disbelief creeping in. You mean the one with the entrance to the fallout shelter? I waited as the humans revealed themselves. They hesitated, peeking through the wall a few times to make sure no zombies were around, and I could hear their childish murmurs as they argued. But I don't want to become a sacrifice. a childish voice cried. The older voice retorted, I'm not going to let him kill you. I've had enough. I'll kill that bastard right here and now. The two girls froze as they stumbled upon my robotic figure. The older one, a Russian-Japanese girl with brunette hair and a soft, delicate expression, immediately raised her spears, and I could feel a telekinetic field pressing against my body. She looked to be 19 or 20 years old, while the younger one appeared to be around 13 to 15. Both girls were painfully thin, with short buzz-cut hair. Their faces were gaunt and yellowed from malnutrition. Are you the subordinate who came to take my sister to your tyrant lord? The older sister demanded. Tiga! The younger girl cried out softly, her voice trembling with fear. I yawned and said, No. I'm here to study. We've been neighbors for a week now, but I never had the chance to introduce myself. I shrugged off the telekinetic field with ease as I stood, prompting backlash against the older girl. She stumbled and collapsed to the ground, gasping for air as sweat dripped onto the concrete. What are you? She asked, fear tightening her voice. The other girl was trembling and crying. No! Don't kill my sister! It's me you want! Kill me instead! The younger girl jumped in front of her sister, trying to shield her. I was stunned for a few seconds. I sighed inwardly. Why did I become the villain here? I literally just stood up from my chair. You can calm down. I'm not going to hurt you, I said in a tired tone. They didn't believe me. Why should they? I was just a stranger. In this world, even their own community wasn't trustworthy, so why would they trust me? Tell me more about this sacrifice, I asked, curious about their purpose in leaving the fallout shelter. The girls exchanged troubled glances. Suddenly, the younger one noticed the drum barrel filled with the water I'd bathed in earlier. Tiga! Look! He has clean water. Her eyes widened in astonishment, and she almost rushed forward before the older one grabbed her shoulder. Suna! No! That's his property. But we don't have water. That's why we have to do the sacrifice. Suna and Tiga, huh? I muttered loud enough for them to hear. I don't mind giving you some water. But not that one. I just bathed in it. Tiga stiffened and snapped. Why are you offering us your things? What do you want in exchange? I sighed, staring at her in disbelief. Retracting my helmet, I revealed my face. Calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. I don't eat people. See. I pointed at the farm I'd built. Their eyes widened. Tiga whispered. You can grow food out here? You can't? How have you survived in the shelter? I asked, surprised. We trade, Suna said timidly. We had a farm once, Tiga muttered bitterly. But it was destroyed. Apparently, the tyrant they traded with was the one who destroyed their farm and poisoned their water supply. In exchange for a bride every month, he provided the shelter with basic food and water. It was messed up. The shelter had lasted for 45 years, until 3 months ago, when the tyrant arrived and demanded this arrangement. Rumors said that once he was done with the girls, he ate them. I shuddered, then told the sisters, You can eat something if you'd like. I'll check your water filtration device later. I think I can fix it. In exchange for? Tiga asked, her suspicion sharp. I do want something. Genetic samples from the kids in your fallout shelter. If you have samples from children who never ate the cores, even better, I replied. For what? What do you want them for? Suna asked cautiously. To study. I shrugged. I don't owe you an explanation. I'm offering a trade. I pulled fresh cores from my ring, yellow, green, blue, and pink. Level 2, 3, 4, and 5. Tiga. You want to fight the tyrant, don't you? How about this? I'll help you, and you'll help me. A fair trade. Her eyes glittered at the sight of the cores. With those, she knew she could defeat the level 4 tyrant. General POV. So, their army is trying to invade another country during the lockdown. Robin muttered, her tone cold. Yes, Wu Jin replied. They are taking advantage of the fact that no one dares to open their borders. Robin paused for a few seconds before speaking. Kill their leader and everyone involved in the decision-making. Then dismantle their nuclear weapons. Understood, Wu Jin said before vanishing. Robin turned to the others. Our master ordered us to contain the chaos in this world until he returns. So we will show no mercy to those who try to exploit his absence. Edward had been gone for only a day, yet Robin had already mobilized their forces 4 times. Humans are truly disgusting, Robin muttered, her voice laced with disdain. On the brink of extinction, and still they think only of themselves. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. Should the cure even need to be found? Chapter 407 Cure. Edward POV. Another week had passed since the meeting with the fallout shelter survivors. 100 people lived inside the fallout shelter, 3 of them were old men, and the rest were girls. There had once been a healthy number of men and women in there, until the tyrant slaughtered the men and the older women. The only reason he spared the old men was because they were needed to keep the fallout shelter running. The older woman, well, he wasn't attracted to non-virgins, so he killed them all. Tiga and Suna's mother were also killed by him. I spared his life for now since Tiga and Suna wanted to kill him by themselves. The girls didn't have any father as the mother used an in vitro fertilization to avoid the prospect of interbreeding in the fallout shelter. In fact, most of the people came from sperm donors, a pre-fallout genetic material storage. Try to control the 2 blades at the same time, I told Tiga as I taught her how to use her telekinetic power for combat purposes. She picked up 2 helicopter blade-sized weapons I had created for her powers, a 3-pronged shuriken with a fidget spinner type inner handle. She cuts off the trees around the research lab and the building too like tofu. Sweat beaded on her forehead after 3 minutes. Her knees trembled, but she managed to lift both at the same time and kept the fighting going. Each blade weighed around 200 kilograms, which also served as weight training for her ability. Here. I was satisfied and tossed another green core into her mouth. She snapped at midair like a snapping turtle and crunched it down. It won't be long until you can reach level 4, I said with a satisfied nod. Tiga grumbled. I would have gotten there sooner if you weren't so stingy with your cores. I smirked. Yeah, it's my core. I can do whatever I want with it. She needed combat experience in order to handle her powers. If she just jumped up to level 4 without any training, she'd be like a loose cannon, maybe even hurting people inside the fallout shelter. Suna flew in, carried by a whirlwind of sand. She landed next to us and said, Captain, 300,000 army ants are heading in this direction. What should we do? 300 what? Tiga's eyes widened in shock, almost losing her mind. I yawned. The ants aren't giving up, huh? We've seen all sorts of them coming around for days. I wonder if we'll finally see their leader now. Suna's eyes were filled with worship as she looked at me. The entire fallout shelter had seen what I could do when 20,000 3-meter-tall bees, 1,000 humanoid beetles, and 5,000 army ants came marching toward us a few days ago. They gave me a lot of EXP, not in the literal sense, but enough for me to finally realize why Sage said the agents like to vacation in this type of dead world. The fighting was endless, and every time I destroyed a wave, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. If my world hadn't been on the brink of destruction, it might have actually relieved some of my stress. No, we can't see any signs of the leader, Suna said, shaking her head slightly. I tossed her a green core and said, Good job, Suna. Have you managed to crack Desert Spada yet? She nodded furiously. Yes. I've figured out how to make a sand blade, sorry, I mean Desert Spada. I chuckled and gave her another core. This is a bonus for growing up so fast. She had risen from level 1 to level 3 in just a week. Her sister had only gone from level 2 to 3. It was safe to say that Suna was the strongest person in the shelter after me. Although, in terms of combat ability, I was already around level 8 or 9. I had reached level 5 and was currently eating the pink core. Just a little more, and I could finally consume the myriad color core, the level 6 core, and put an end to this endless beast swarm. Bring the squad to the front line. All of you will join the battle with me, I told the sisters. After gaining their trust, I had begun training many people so the fallout shelter could survive once I was gone. I had to split my focus between researching the cure and training them all, but after breaking through level 4, I gained something I had longed for, an evolution skill, duplicate. Yup, I had gained the ability to duplicate myself. There's a total of 3 Edwards in this universe right now. One was studying the crops and rebuilding civilization, including creating a new defense line. He took a couple of people with her to clear up the Fishman's Nest up north, to clear up the area surrounding the river and to find the other fallout shelter over there. The research lab had marked several fallout shelter places, and now I was thinking of bringing them all back here to rebuild civilization. The other one was working on virus research. I was doing multiple things at once, creating a cloning lab in order to bring back normal animals into the world, teaching the people here how to increase their strength, and researching the zombie virus so that I could find the cure for this virus too. Finally, after all this time, I can use shadow clones, or at least something similar. The duplicates weren't permanent, they would get reabsorbed after 24 hours. The more duplicates I made, the sooner it would be for them to be reabsorbed. Like if I made 100, I could also contain them for 20 seconds before it would all be absorbed, giving me an intense headache. One of my duplicates was working on studying why there's people who couldn't use the evolution core to survive the zombie virus. However, a few days ago, we had a breakthrough. By combining the core and my Esper serum, everyone inside the fallout shelter now could evolve and grow stronger. Adu-chan. I waved at the girl with scary eyes who just pulled out the 4 bag from her hand. You've done with your evolution to level 3? I asked. The girl nodded and said scarily, Yeah. I'm done. Now I understand there's a fight? You know your roles, right? Have you finished learning what I taught you before? Yeah, she answered lazily. I understood my role as a support. I don't need you to supervise me, she said, pushing me away. The girl with pink and white hair walked towards the instruments I have restored. The drums, guitars, piano, and many more. The instruments floated up on their own, making her a one-man band instead of her needing a bandmate to play. I pursed my lips in jealousy and said, Adu-chan. We should sing together later. She held back a smile and then glared at me again, pushing me away by saying, Go ahead and fight. I'll buff you. Understood. I chuckled and then went to the battlefield after wearing my armor and carrying my black sword. I floated in front of the massive army using the armor's jet shoes. The ants screeched as they pointed their wooden spears at me. Adu's eyes glowed green, and musical notes began floating from around her as the song started. Tot musica, Adu! Adu sang with a scream. What is that nonsense? Suna was confused. It's an ancient rune, Tiga replied. Ancient Firthark possible reading. Using my gift of the mouth to bring forth chaos, I call on this power in my time of need. A warrior of destruction. I choose the path of destruction. Her vocal style changes into low, husky narration. Where does this heart, struck by rain, wander? My bitter tears flowing out. They never dry up. I let the words of a curse be my deliverance. Tiga yelled out. Ready your cannons! 10 weapons, long black metal tubes, hollow at the center, each manned by 2 girls, swiveled toward the incoming ants. The girls placed their hands on the cannon bodies. With their electromagnetic powers, they flooded the rails with currents, charging them far beyond what normal technology could achieve. Railgun! Fire! Tiga shouted. Boom 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 boom. Metal slugs screamed from the barrels at hypersonic speed. Explosions ripped through the ants' ranks. 10,000 fell in a single volley. Parts of the ants' bodies flew all over. One large leg almost hit me in the air, but I dodged easily by moving my head. Adu continued singing the ancient rune, her voice echoing across the battlefield. The girls who heard it felt their strength return, as if their drained energy had been filled again. Second round! Tiga yelled. Possible reading. I will freeze my humanity and become a stallion of doom with this power. Bestow this power upon me. Freeze my humanity so I can destroy. Freeze my humanity so I can destroy. Possible reading. The world will fall into darkness as chaos descends upon it, the sun hidden behind a cloud of ash. Brave warriors may rise and fight against this night stallion, but all that will be left is a sea of destruction. Adu vocal changed into a begrudging hope. These ancient words like a hymn of reclamation. Suna and Tiga began their assault too. Suna conjured up a sandstorm, and Tiga began harvesting the ants with her giant shurikens. Not even death will escape them. How to center these troubled thoughts? I pray. Can the future bring calm to the sea? I beg. The bombardment took too long to recharge, and the ants had almost breached the perimeter line. Tiga, Suna, and the other frontline girls were becoming suppressed, so I swapped in. My eyes turned into a 3-tomo Sharingan, but they kept swirling, becoming faster and faster by the second. Really? My eyes are evolving too? I muttered in shock. I held my blade with 2 hands and yelled out. Whirlwind! It was Zoro's technique which I figured out. A storm of slashes appeared on the battlefield, and it pushed the ants backwards while cutting them to pieces. Adu screamed, a metal song type of scream. It's time for salvation to finally come. I feel this rage and I'm feeling it strong. This weeping and wailing has gone far too long. Nothing left but to yell. Blah blah blah. Second bombardment ready! Boom 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 boom. The ants were helpless against this tower defense. A lot of the girls hadn't grown up yet and had to be sidelined. Once they joined the rank of defenders, then the strategy would be much better. I know you feel it too, so keep on singing this song. Even when they abuse us, we'll keep singing along. Combining a sun-breathing technique I learned with the fire chakra, I held off the army by myself as the girls took a breather. We'll start another Big Bang when we all sing as one. 10th form, Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance. A fire dragon appeared behind me, which incinerated everything in my path. I duplicated myself into 10, and then spat fires at the front line, killing over 50,000 army ants in a single blow. Fire Jutsu, Fire Wave. United, we're fighting. Bring him down with our Song of Ruin. I think he can kill them all by himself. Suna commented, her eyes were filled with fanatical worship. We will rejoice when we get the freedom promised. The freedom so many die for. I kept the fire walls up as I harvested more ants with my fiery sword slashes. The ants shivered in fear as they saw my figure up in the air, staring at them with a cold, murderous expression. They dropped their spears and ran in the opposite direction. Adieu sang with glittering eyes. When there's nowhere to run, we must find hope. Left forgotten within the light, there it glows. She sang using a scream technique again as I chased after the ants. Keep making this music till you breath your last. We dream but never lose sight of the past. The bombardment continued. Suna yelled, "Desert Spada!" and cut off 10 ants' heads with a single slice. Tiga balled her fists, and then threw the harvester towards the ants, slicing 100 of them on the waist. Illuminate hope and forgot all the rest. Nothing left but to yell, blah blah blah. Suddenly, a huge, 10-meter-tall flying ant with purple armors flew towards the battlefield. "That's the commander, huh?" I muttered as I flew to face him head-on. His claws and my sword clashed slightly before both of us were pushed away from the impact. I widened my eyes as my hand shook from the test of strength. You're over level 6. Is this possible?" I muttered with a slight surprise in my tone. "Die human." He spoke using a human language and launched himself towards me. I coated my sword with hockey, something that I didn't do before. Fire-breathing 10th form, beneficent radiance. A twister of fire appeared and clashed with the purple streak in the air. It's time for salvation to finally come. I feel this rage and I'm feeling it strong. Both of us stood motionlessly as we passed by each other. This weeping and wailing has gone far too long. Nothing left but to yell blah blah blah. Suddenly, fiery cracks began to appear on the ant's armor, and then he fell into pieces. I know you feel it too, so keep on singing this song. Even when they abuse us, we'll keep singing along. Destroy them all! Tiga shouted, fully motivated by the death of the commander. We'll start another Big Bang when we all sing as one. United, we're fighting. Bring them down with our song of ruin. Whoa! The girls screamed and began hunting the ants with primal expressions. I chuckled and joined them, helping to fight off the waves. By dusk, we had wiped out 99.99% of the ants. The sidelined girls collected the cores from the ants' bodies while I returned to the lab. I patted Adu on her head and said, "You've done well." She had no voice left, so she just brushed my hand away angrily. The battle girls were taking a break after the fighting, bathing in the onsen I had dug behind the research lab. I had placed purification runes around the area so the water wouldn't be polluted by the virus. We also used that water for the farm I was building. A field of corn and potatoes was almost ready for harvest now. "How many cores do we have?" my research duplicate asked. He was wearing a lab coat and glasses. I gave him the Ant Commander core, which was a silver core. "Including this one?" "Around 500,000. "That's great," he replied, then showed me his design, an anti-zombie virus diffuser with a worldwide range, capable of eradicating any airborne strain. "We cracked the zombie virus?" I looked at him in shock. He nodded. "Yup. Thanks to the research data the original scientists left behind. But there was a catch for worldwide disinfection to happen. We need around 3 million cores. Fuck! I cursed. Suddenly, another one of my duplicates returned from his hunt, dragging with him a giant lizard's head that contained a level 6 core. His bare body was covered in scars. A golden bracelet gleamed on his bicep, and he wielded 2 swords instead of 1. Add my 250,000, he said. We're a quarter away from the finish line. During the battle, I finally completed my evolution to get to level 6. And as I ate the cores we found, something happened to my eyes. It's evolving into an eternal Mangekyo? A Mangekyo appeared in both of my eyes. It has 7 points, all connected together like the sun had appeared in my eyes. General POV. Zomworld. So an otherworlder has come again. A humanoid queen bee gritted her teeth. A humanoid golden beetle said, "He killed the commander so easily." The 2 level 8 creatures turned to the one sitting at the head of the table. A humanoid king ant, whose only similarities to a real ant were his antennae, regarded them silently. The level 10 creature grinned. Otherworlders may be strong, but they are also idiots who trust far too easily. He pulled out the weapons he had scavenged from the otherworlder he had killed before, an adamantine katana, a vibrilum headgear, and a set of obsidian gauntlets etched with glowing runes. Edward's world. The death rate kept climbing at an unprecedented pace. Cities fell silent as hospitals overflowed, and entire regions became quarantine zones. The World Health Organization, WHO, and the United Nations UN convened an emergency meeting, broadcast globally through Edward's quantum communication network. Virtual delegates from every nation glared at one another, their faces etched with fear, anger, and disbelief. A WHO representative, sweating under the strain, spoke first. Based on current projections, if this virus continues unchecked, we estimate over 1 billion fatalities in the next 2 months. It would take at least 6 months to develop an effective cure. Silence followed. The magnitude of the statement froze everyone in their seats. Then the delegate from Borovia, the nation that had launched the unauthorized strike in the middle of the pandemic and had their entire nuclear arsenal dismantled, spoke up with indignation. This is unacceptable. How could the virus have spread so fast? How could this happen to us? Panic rippled through the assembly. Messages from the public flooded in. Markets crashed. Hospitals reported mass casualties. Some called it doomsday. Others pointed fingers at the U.S. government for their unethical biological weapons research. Governments scrambled for emergency responses. International news channels broadcast images of deserted streets and overrun morgues. Fear became a contagion of its own. From somewhere in the chaos, Edward's voice cut through the static. Calm, sharp, and unflinching, it rang across every feed. You're all idiots. Everyone watching the WHO program was stunned. Especially you, Edward continued. The Boravian president who told people to inject bleach into patients to kill the virus. How a dumb fuck like you could ever become president is beyond me. Edward's words left the assembly flabbergasted. Even the Queen of England raised an eyebrow at his rudeness. The popular teenage pop star who had cured HIV and diabetes had rudely interjected himself into the WHO meeting, and cursed everyone there. Robin, disguised as Edward, had already reached her peak irritation. She wasn't polite at all when she saw the stupidity of the WHO guy who declared the world was basically doomed. At most a month, Edward/Robin said decisively. Hold on just for a month. Maybe even less. It's not going to be 1 billion in 2 months. At most, 300 million. Your calculations didn't account for us, the actual humans, making an effort to contain the virus. In a month, maybe 40 million will die. It's still a high number, but I can deliver a cure within a month. I have created a new type of antibiotic. I will share the formula with every country here, and you can keep the patients alive with these antibiotics for longer than a couple of days. Give them a fighting chance. Don't bill the people for these antibiotics since they aren't at fault. Some of you here decided to unleash the virus on your own population as a means to silence the opposition. Yes, I'm looking at you, Baravia's president. So if you don't want the evidence to come out, make all healthcare free for the patients. So don't do anything stupid. Believe in me, and sit your asses down in your houses. If you do something reckless, like invading your neighbor, I'm going to slither down your throat while you sleep. Robin ended her threat and cut off the call. Everyone remained stunned. The public suddenly burst into laughter when they saw the politicians getting cursed out. Oh my fucking god! Alex was astonished when she saw the cussing live. Phil, Claire, Haley, and Luke were also shocked. For the first time ever, the public saw the bad side of Edward, his temper, and they loved it. The President of the United States, who was in the meeting, finally snapped out of it, and he chuckled slightly. The Boravian president fumed. He turned to the U.S. president and said, "Your citizen just threatened to kill the leader of Boravia. We have close relationship with the United States." "Shut the fuck up." The president cursed with a calm, smiling face. The Boravian president was stunned again. "Excuse me?" "Shut the fuck up." The president enunciated every word. Then, he turned and addressed everyone there. "You heard him. Go make the antibiotics now. Save as many lives as you can. And then, wait for the cure. Don't fearmonger and instead, focus more on containment for now," he said before he left too. Soon, the other presidents followed suit and left the virtual meeting one by one. Chapter 408, Final Battle Part 1. Edward POV. The makeshift lab stood quiet, the cloning chamber humming in the corner. I heard footsteps behind me as I jotted notes on my clipboard. Without turning, I asked, "Tiga, are you done picking the tomatoes?" She dropped the basket in front of me, the red, crisp tomatoes bouncing against each other. "Humph!" She turned her face away and floated off, her telekinetic power lifting her with ease. Suna came in, lugging a sack of potatoes. "Wow! She still hates you, huh?" I shrugged, pretending indifference. A few days ago, Tiga had slipped into my chamber and peeled off her Fallout shelter uniform, claiming the seed storage was running low. I remembered Sage's warning, that my saliva and other bodily fluids could kill them all, and rejected her advances. I told her as much. She was furious. For days now, she's done her work without complaint, but she won't even look at me. That stings more than I'd like to admit. And it wasn't just Tiga. Others had tried the same thing. Behind the research lab, a small village had risen. 600 survivors from scattered Fallout shelters migrated here, clinging to the safety and health I promised them. Many more shelters had been discovered, but most were xenophobic, unwilling to welcome strangers. Those who came were the desperate ones, the ones who had run out of options in this godforsaken world. Beak! A bleat snapped me from my thoughts. A black adolescent goat nosed toward the basket of tomatoes. "Oh no you don't!" Suna's arms whipped forward, trapping the goat in a miniature sandstorm. "BKKK!" The creature wailed as she spun it back into its enclosure. 10 goats, 13 chickens, 2 cows, all cloned from salvaged, unmutated DNA. Livestock reborn for survival. The cloning technology came from another shelter. The scientists there had worked on the research for decades. Sadly, he died before he could complete it. His breakthrough was in artificial aging, allowing clones to be mass-produced quickly. There were still many genetic defects in the clones born this way, but the researcher hypothesized that the cores, what he called evolution seeds, could be used to fix those defects. Only one level 1 core each was needed, and the clone's aging process would stabilize, letting them live as long as an ordinary human. The catch was that they had to ingest the core immediately after leaving the cloning chamber. This tomato is really good. I should make pizza today, I muttered, taking a bite out of it. I already had milk from the cows, which meant I could make cheese. The farm also had wheat, so I had flour too. Pizza? Suna muttered, drool already forming at the corner of her mouth. She'd been spoiled by the food I'd made over the past 10 days. She even jotted down all the recipes so she could cook them herself after I was gone. Suddenly, the alarm wailed. I dropped the clipboard and sprinted out through the broken window, Suna close on my heels. At the town square, a massive shadow loomed. A floating behemoth battered the energy shield surrounding the village. The Pteranodon, a child whispered, collapsing to the ground, eyes wide with terror. One wing could cover the entire settlement. Construction robots, running off the AI programs I carried, deployed instantly, railguns rising into formation. Ready! An albino commander barked. Fire! 10 railguns thundered as one. The Pteranodon reeled, crashing onto its back. Blood seeped across its scales, but without a direct hit to a vital organ, it would not die. I hovered at the battlefield's edge, watching the girls move into position. No need to interfere, unless they failed. Another perk of my evolution, flight. The evolution seeds, the cores. They were pushing me closer to the Otsutsuki bloodline. Perhaps I had reached the level of Azura or Indra themselves. That's why my Mangekyo started with an eternal Mangekyo. The Pteranodon shrieked, its form flickering as the bombardment whittled away its life. Suna, a level 5 sand controller enhanced by my Esper fluid, collapsed the ground beneath its talons. Tiga, a level 6 telekinetic warrior, carved into its wings with her saw, grounding it for good. The beast's throat glowed orange. Lava welled up. No! Suna cried, throwing up a wall of sand. However, the defense was too weak. I surged forward, stepping in front of the girls at the last second. The lava struck, then dissipated against a massive ribcage of crimson chakra. The ribcage grew. Towering into the sky, a 100-meter titan took shape, my Susanoo. 3 horns crowned its head. In one hand, it gripped a colossal black sword, in the other, a violin bow. Though still only half the Pteranodon's height, the Susanoo radiated a power the beast could never match. Red wings burst from its back, carrying me into the sky. With one swing, I slit the monster's throat, destroying the organ responsible for its lava attack. It shrieked in pain, wanting to flee, but its wings were too damaged for escape. I didn't finish it. Instead, I floated to the side and called down to the girl. He's all yours. Don't disappoint me. Their eyes glittered with worship as they looked at me. The albino girl, Rust, ordered another bombardment, while charging her railgun cannon. The girls continued their assault. Tiga controlled her saw and slashed at the monster's eyes, driving her chain blades deeper and deeper into its skull. The beast wailed pitifully. I started to pity it, just a little. After an hour of relentless attacks, the monster finally collapsed to the ground. The girls cheered, and Tiga cut the core from its body. It was silver, signifying a level 7 beast. As Tiga raised the core high in triumph, everyone applauded. I nodded in satisfaction, secretly thinking, once I'm gone, I believe they can fend for themselves. I had 10 more days left in this world. I had already found the cure for alien pox, and I wanted to leave. But seeing the survivors fight so hard to live, I felt compelled to do more for them. The applause stopped as all of us heard clapping from the other direction. Wow! You're all really strong. A young man applauded loudly, eyeing the girls in a childish manner before looking upward at me. His dark pupils made the alarm in my mind ring. Suna approached him and asked, "Who are you?" "Me? I'm a survivor. I was wondering if I could join your camp," he said politely. Suna and Tiga exchanged a glance, then looked toward me. My senses went on high alert. Suna and Tiga are too close to him. He could kill them both in an instant, and his eyes warned me that he was about to. "No. You can't," I said. Suna and Tiga were confused. The man shrugged in confusion. "Why? Are all of them part of your harem?" Tiga blushed slightly before glaring at me. "But I used a trump card to change the situation, a Menota Jikura, Uchiha Sasuke's space-time swapping technique. In the blink of an eye, I switched places with Suna and shielded Tiga as the man nearly thrust his armored hand into her skull. Clang! The metallic clash reverberated across the battlefield. I kicked Tiga away from the confrontation. Ugh, what are you? Tiga started, but fell silent as she lost sight of both me and the man, our movements too fast to follow. You're really strong, I muttered in shock. The man smiled politely. So are you. We both retreated, and I glanced at my sword. It was covered in cracks. He smirked. Your weapon's too weak against my adamantium skin. Ada, adamantium? My eyes widened. He chuckled. You really are an otherworlder. You knew what I was talking about instantly. His hand morphed, transforming into armored plating shaped like a medieval knight's gauntlet. My ability is consume, he explained. I can consume anything and integrate it into my body. But the last two otherworlders I killed, his tone soured. Their bodies turned to light particles before I could devour them. I hate that. A lot. His eyes sharpened. I wonder if you'll scatter too. Or maybe, if I eat you alive then. Yeah, that's not happening, I interrupted, taking a stance with my sword. He snickered. Don't rush. I want to savor this. In 7 days, I'll bring my armies here, and you'll bring yours. We'll fight to the end. The winner will become the sole owner of Genesis. That was what this universe called Earth. Fight for supremacy? I asked. He shrugged and said, Isn't this what it's all about? If you run away, then, I will slaughter everyone in the camp, and every single human beings in this continent. I'm not running away, I interjected decisively. He smirked and vanished after declaring war, leaving me to finally catch my breath. He was strong, way stronger than me, even. However, he made a mistake of giving me some prep time. I guess he was watching the fight from afar to figure out our combat capability. Tiga and Suna approached me, their faces pale and distressed. Don't worry. He's not going to come back for now. Is it true? You're not from this world? Tiga asked quickly. What? I widened my eyes, stunned by her words. Suna added, He said you're an otherworlder. Are you an alien from space? I couldn't reply for a while. Maybe I was afraid that I would break their trust. We'll talk about this inside, I told the two. So you come from another world? Tiga muttered, eyes full of disbelief and awe. Suna said, Your world is on the brink of becoming like ours, so you came here to find the cure? Basically, yeah, I replied. Suna pouted. I'm a little jealous of your world now. They have someone like you to fight for them. She turned to Tiga and said, Isn't that right, sis? But Tiga didn't answer. She seemed lost in her own thoughts. Sis? Suna called again, softly. What? Oh, why yeah. I think I'm going to help the others with the cleanup first. No. I stopped her. I know you need a moment to gather your thoughts, but honestly, we don't have that luxury right now. There's an attack coming in 7 days, and I have to help you all become stronger than you are now in order to survive. I know, I just... Tiga's eyes grew misty before she turned to me with an accusatory look. I realized you said you won't be here long. But I thought that if we made this a home for you, you'd stay. The room fell into heavy silence. I sighed after a while and said, Sorry, Tiga. But I can't stay. She bit her lip, her chin quivering as she looked at me with shaky eyes. But I will help you survive. I promise. Right now, we can't follow our feelings. We have to think about what's best for everyone here. You might resent me. I don't resent you. I'm disappointed, I'm depressed, I'm jealous. Tiga broke into tears. I finally found something I could count on in this fucked up world. But it turns out, even he is temporary. Tiga ran away crying. I let her go this time. It was useless to discuss defense strategy while she was still coming to terms with her feelings. Suna didn't react the same way, but she said something worrying. If you're from a different world, I think you should impregnate as many girls as you can so we can study the genetic differences when you're gone. Shut up, Suna. Call everyone. Russ, Tyre, Jacinta, everyone. Soon, the squadron leaders gathered. Tiga had already calmed down and joined the meeting through sheer willpower. Suna and Tiga didn't tell anyone else about the otherworldly remark, keeping the secret between the three of us. Listen up, I said. The reason he declared war instead of just killing us is because our combined strength is a threat to him. That means he has executives in his ranks strong enough to tip the balance. I spread out a map my drones had created and laid it on the table. We have to assume they're on the level of the Commander Ant, or stronger. So all of you need to be at least level 7 when the war comes. The girls nodded, their faces pale with worry. We also need to scout ahead to gauge their numbers. Jacinta, you can see up to 30 kilometers ahead. You'll be my scout. Find the enemy's strength. I pointed to a Filipino-looking woman with a blue streak in her hair. She straightened, hands stiff at her sides, and nervously replied, Roger. Tyre. I turned to the black woman. You still have that storage skill, right? Yup. I still can't bring people into the subspace, so we can't use it for guerrilla warfare. She replied. It's fine. I have another idea. You'll work with my duplicate on this. Rust. I turned to the albino woman. The railgun cannon is strong, but you need to grow your ability to be more flexible in battle. You have electromagnetic powers, but they're stuck at level 4. I floated a coin in my hand, and then shot it through the wall. It's time for you to upgrade. My duplicate will train with you until you can fire the railgun without relying on the cannon as auxiliary support. Russ nodded calmly. In the next few days, they trained harder than ever before. I, too, went searching for the remnants of other agents who had come to this world. We could bring items here, my armor, and another agent's adamantium metal. If I found their traces, maybe I could uncover more items hidden in their storage. It was like searching for a needle in a haystack, considering the vast area I had to cover. But I had just the ability in my collection for that. It's my dear old friend's ability. Davy Jones, Tia Dalma's compass. All I needed was a compass. I'd pour the ability into it, and it would lead me to whatever my heart desired most. And right now, what I desired most were the items left behind. If only my Mangekyo ability had awakened, I wouldn't have to try so hard. Both of my eyes' powers were still blank. Mangekyo reflected one's deepest personality and desire, so I had no idea what mine would turn out to be. The search for the items didn't take long with the compass. I flew at a high speed and then found the broken knapsack that the previous agent brought with him. It was inside an abandoned base, with a bed and a fridge, also powered with solar power. It seemed to have been abandoned for years. I saw traces of the battle a few hundreds meters away from the base. I guessed that was where the agent got ambushed and died, and their weapons stolen. Noise! I yelped in elation as I saw something in storage. A vibranium ore, and an adamantium sword. There was also a sling ring, and a few books from Kamar Tag in there. Did the other agent come here from the Marvel Universe? That's awesome. Even more awesome if they have you. No, I should be grateful that they even left this. What is this? I picked up a gun and checked the ammo, and it turned out to be Tesseract energy ammo. Adu can use this. I picked up everything and searched for remnants of another agent by flying away. I practiced with the sling ring for some time, and after I found the other agent's backpack, I could already open a head-sized portal. The ring used my energy instead of the dimensional energy. I guess that's fine. The energy it used was barely negligible. With this ring, I had another trump card to use in the battle. One day before the war. So, you see it? I asked Jacinta as she peeked on the army from afar. Around 3 million beasts and zombies. She muttered with a shaky expression. Damn. Wait, 3 million? Noise. I was elated instead of rattled by the numbers, like everyone else did. Are you sure you want to take the battle to them? Suna asked worriedly. I smiled and said, "Yeah. You know what the best strategy in a war is? It's the element of surprise." At the stratosphere, Tyre, the girl with the storage skill, wore an astronaut helmet as my duplicate flew her into space. Tyre opened her storage, and a cutout, top of the mountain came out from the opening. HMMMPHHH. Tyre continued to push it out. The duplicate was confused and asked, "Why does it take so much pressure for you to get it out?" "It feels like this thing is inside me, and I need to push it out of my body." Tyre continued struggling. "Like a baby?" The duplicate was in disbelief. The baby finally fell from the sky, and the duplicate said, "More no me, multiply weight x 100. It was one card in the storage. The mountaintop suddenly fell at high speed. The Ant King turned to the sky as he saw a red streak coming into his direction. General POV. Back in the normal world, Wujin found Hargrave, the man who had created the alien pox virus. However, he wasn't the only one who had tracked him down in Africa. The KGB, CIA, Interpol, and numerous other intelligence agencies were all searching for him in the town. One of them found him first. With a thick Russian accent, the KGB agent said, "We will bring you to Russia. Grant you asylum, like you asked? In return, you give us the formula?" Hargrave shrugged. "I don't have the cure." "We're not looking for the cure," the Russian replied. Hargrave smiled maniacally. "I like you. I think we will make a great ally. And I think you're late for your plastic surgery." The Russian smiled evilly. Crash! Wujin smashed through the window and slashed the Russian agent's throat before he could react. He immediately pointed his dagger at Hargrave. Wait! I surrender." Hargrave raised his hands, still smiling. "You'll bring me in, right? To whoever your boss is." "My boss doesn't need your abilities or your knowledge. It's all useless compared to what he already has," Wujin said coldly. Hargrave frowned. "I can kill the world. No one knows more about the Aliex virus than I do." Before he could finish, Wujin's dagger flashed, separating Hargrave's head from his body. "What?" Hargrave muttered in disbelief. He was certain they would take him alive. But Wujin decided it was best to cut off the source of future trouble. He tossed the time bomb onto the floor and left the house. Other agents, already rushing toward the sound of the breaking window, surrounded the building. By the time Wujin slipped away, nearly 50 men had stormed inside to capture Hargrave. Boom! The bomb detonated, killing everyone in the vicinity. Wujin felt no guilt. He knew every operative here was working off the books. He glanced at his watch. 6 more hours until the boss gets back. I should clean up more. Chapter 409, Final Battle Part 2. Edward POV. The horde of million zombies and mutant bees marched on the land. 50 meters tall zombies with chains on their necks were leading the march. Behind them, millions more zombies who were controlled by the queen bee frequency. The queen bee sat on a palanquin carried by the zombies, crossing her leg and smirking. The golden beetle led his army of night-type beetles into the fray. The Ant King were leading millions of ants, from worker ants, flying ants, humanoid ants, and even mutated ants into the battle. I floated 10 kilometers away with Tiga, Suna, Adu, and Rust, watching the battlefield choke with monsters. "The world needs a reset," I murmured. "In the old days, it was a meteor that ended the reign of the dinosaurs. In this age, it must be fire and ash that ends the reign of the undead." The sky tore open. A red streak, the size of a small hill, screamed downward like the judgment of the gods. "A great purge will come," I continued. "And when it's done, only the strongest will crawl from the ruins. That will be the true rebirth of mankind." Boom. The meteor was only 100 meters in diameter, like a stone hill ripped out of the earth, but its weight was amplified 100 times over. That meant the impact wasn't just falling rock, it was like an entire mountain crashing down at once. The 50-meter titans in chains lifted their heads too late. When the meteor struck, they were the first to break, their bones snapping like twigs. The rest of the horde turned into a cushion of flesh. Absorbing some of the force, yes, but dying instantly, crushed into ash and blood. The crater that should have swallowed the land whole was shallower than expected, because the bodies took the brunt of it. I put up defensive runes on the girls' bodies, and created a magical protection shield covering us. The world shook from the impact. The shockwave spread out like a wave in water. Tsunamis were created. Trees were torn up, dirt ripped into the air. Even 100 kilometers away at the shelter, the ground rumbled as if an earthquake had split the world open. Walls trembled, lights burst, and people screamed. The battlefield itself turned into a furnace. Fire rolled in every direction, swallowing ants, beetles, and zombies by the millions. Smoke and dust shot into the sky, darkening the sun. And yet, some still lived. The golden beetle dragged itself out from beneath broken shells of its army, its armor cracked and glowing red from heat. The queen bee's wings were torn, her palanquin gone, but her eyes still burned with fury. The ant king pulled himself free from the ash, not even a dent in his body. I calculated there were 10,000 creatures, level 5 and above, that had survived the impact, scarred, broken, but alive. The meteor hadn't wiped the board clean, but it took out most of it. Second wave of bombardment, I ordered calmly. My duplicate up in the sky opened a portal. Tyre jumped through, landing in the survivor village. She raised her voice to the defenders there. Activate the missiles, now. From the hills around the settlement, steel silos groaned open. What I had scavenged and repaired over the last 2 years, hundreds of missiles, dug out from abandoned U.S. Air Force depots, old NATO bases, and even a rusting carrier strike group left to rot. The launch racks were a patchwork of various missiles. Tomahawk cruise missiles, their guidance systems rebuilt by my hand. AGM-158 JSSM, stealth black, with payloads refitted to burn through undead flesh. A handful of Trident 2D5 SLBMs, weapons meant to end nations, now pointed at corpses. And smaller stocks of Hellfire 2s and Stinger manpads, loaded on jury-rigged trucks and drones. The villagers lit the ignition charges. The missiles flew through the portal and headed directly underneath it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hundreds of contrails tore into the sky at once, streaking across the red horizon like furious brushstrokes. The ground shook with every launch. Up above, the wounded horde looked up too late. Oh, come on! The Ant King grimaced. Kaboom, boom, 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 boom. They were continuously being bombarded by the missiles. It continued on for about 10 minutes. I could feel the heat from the bombardment even 10 kilometers away. The horde was helpless from the surprise attacks. The Ant King flew to the air to battle the missiles, but he felt like he was doing a useless thing. If he cut it off, it blew up. If he punched it, it blew up. He blocked with his body, it still blew up, but it pushed him to the ground, so he missed blocking several more. As the missiles were used up, the air around the horde was so thick with dust that it was hard to see if there were survivors from the attack. There's like 1,000 left. I rubbed my chin as I watched the survivors crawl up from the fiery hole in the ground. Suna. Tiga. I ordered. The 2 girls flew to the battlefield and began clearing out the dust. The Sandstorm girl already had evolved into a level 6 being. Her sand control had branched out, allowing her to control dust. She also gained another ability, Metamorphosis, allowing her to manipulate a material at level 6, and awakened another ability, Metal Control, after she used the high-risk Esper Serum. Tiga only had her telekinetic ability, but its strength had reached 10-fold now. She could also create a force field with her ability. The 2 girls no longer wore Fallout Shelter clothes. Tiga opted for a black-green one-piece dress with 2 deep cuts on her legs, and cut her hair short after dyeing it green. Suna wore a black, tight-fitting, elegant dress with fur coat and a golden hoop on her ear. She also slicked her hair back and wore a slight eyeshadow. Tiga and Suna mowed down the injured, continuously pruning their numbers. The leaders of the horde finally regained their mind after a while. The Ant King shrieked and tried to attack the girls, but I interjected midway, kicking his abdomen and pushing him back to the ground. Rust. Adu. Kill the bee. Tiga. Suna. You guys handle the beetle. I ordered calmly as I slashed through the survivors, taking around 200 of them in a single slash of my adamantium sword. This weapon is really strong. It's too bad. I wanted to cry in my mind. Sage told me over and over that I couldn't bring anything back with me. That's why I gave my armor to Adu, and for the cure, I have to really remember the formula for me to recreate it back home. I slashed and slashed, cutting the numbers down to another half before the Ant King could return. You! How are you much stronger now? He asked, fully shocked. I snickered and said, I just got to level 8 yesterday. Thank God after level 6, I didn't need hundreds of cores anymore to level up. I went to hunt for the level 6, 7 and 8 monsters and zombies in the past few days. Since I had the sling ring, travel became much easier now. I even began hunting creatures in different continents. There I met a level 9 dragon. The Ant King was definitely the strongest creature in this world. We started our fight immediately, and my sword couldn't penetrate his skin. I even added slashing runes to the adamantium sword, but it was useless. His skin was invulnerable. How can I kill this guy? I'm out of Amaterasu, so I don't have anything that can bypass his defense. The blade and carapace clashed. We struggled to gain an advantage over one another. My duplicates joined the battle with the bombardment squad, using railgun cannon to mow down the horde. Rust and Adu teamed up in fighting the queen bee. The queen bee could control people using frequency, but Adu was like her natural nemesis. Adu strummed her guitar to block the frequency, stopping other bees from helping the queen, while Rust continuously shot her direct railgun. A surge of electromagnetic power engulfed Rust, making her float to the sky. She could shoot 2 blasts at once, causing the bee to get in a serious trouble. Tiga and Suna worked together to fight the beetle. The beetle slashed at Tiga, but she blocked using her force field. Suna took the chance to shoot multiple metal swords at the monster, but he managed to avoid it, only to fall into a quicksand trap Suna had made. The girls could handle themselves, so I just focused on beating the Ant King. Useless! Useless! We can't hurt each other. But I have the advantage here. Once your time is up, then I will kill all of them. The Ant King shrieked. I see. I summoned my Susanoo as I created a distance with the Ant King. Instead of the sword, I picked the violin fiddle. The sword turned into a violin, which made the Ant King confused. You're singing at this time? He asked, shocked. Asturias Isaac Albanese. I played a melody using the chakra violin, and the Ant King suddenly found himself trapped. I can't move. He spat out, his face fully shocked. This is the sound of the soul. Your physical body would be indestructible, but your soul? It can be chipped away. I muttered as I continued playing the song. The Susanoo flared around me, its form shimmering with strings of light, like a colossal figure woven from music itself. The bow of the violin glowed as I drew it. Cantus anima? I whispered the name of my Susanoo ability. The song of the soul. The melody surged, every note a blade that cut deeper into his essence. The Ant King shrieked in pain. As his body convulsed, he finally took off the human look and turned into a full-blown ant monster. His body grew to 100 meters height, breaking free of the illusionary trap. Shit! I cursed, blocking his attack. My Susanoo could handle his strength, and we began the second battle in our titan-sized forms. I guess there's no shortcut in this fight, I muttered. I figured my ability failed because, as a monster, he couldn't appreciate the beauty of music. The ant chuckled. Why would you want to end something so interesting so soon? I have places to be, I groaned. The queen bee and the golden beetle were both defeated by the girls after an hour. Only the Ant King remained. I fought and fought, but I couldn't defeat him. Instead of despairing, I became more excited by the minute. See? I know you're similar to me. The Ant King grinned at my battle-thirsty expression. Suddenly, as the sword and his carapace clashed again, his antennae sharpened and thrust into my heart. I spat blood from the surprise attack, but I didn't retreat. Instead, I used fire jutsu, fireball, and spat a huge flaming ball of fire at his face. Jumping away, I immediately converted my young energy to my heart. I'd almost have died if it wasn't for my healing factor, I muttered in astonishment. The fire burned the ant's eyes, but his own healing factor kicked in, slowly regenerating them. This fight's going to drag out, huh? I told him. He nodded. Until one of us falls. That sounds tiring. I sighed heavily. We clashed again and again, until day turned into night, and night turned back into day. Our abilities were evenly matched. I even tried Magneto's metal control to pull apart his carapace, but I think even his internal organs were metal, so it didn't work. I heated him with fire magic and rapidly cooled him with ice magic, but that failed too. Adamantium armor was too OP. The only things that could defeat adamantium were the Muramasa blade or anti-metal vibranium. I had neither. The fight sharpened my swordsmanship by the second. I could already cut through steel, so now I wanted to see if I could cut through adamantium. I huffed and puffed. 36 hours had passed since the battle began. I'd used up all my trump cards. My chakra was nearly depleted, and I couldn't summon Susanoo armor anymore. The Ant King was in a similar state. He couldn't finish the fight either. Eddie! We're done! Tiga called from afar, waving. Both the Ant King and I turned toward her. We saw millions of cores being brought back to the camp. Do it then, I told her. She nodded and left through the portal my duplicate opened. I had instructed them to start the purification device to disinfect the airborne alien virus that was mutating everything. Once complete, humans wouldn't need to fear their newborns turning into living corpses. The purification would also cleanse the water and land, making them safe for consumption again. The Ant King tilted his head in confusion, but didn't bother to understand. He only wanted to fight. Focus on me! He lunged at me again. God, you're like an obsessive girlfriend. I sidestepped his attack, when suddenly I felt something stir in my left eye. My Mangekyo ability was finally ready. General POV. Is this a fight a human could ever interfere in? Suna muttered, her eyes trembling as she watched the battle between two demigods. The Ant King's claw attack ripped the land apart, but Edward blocked it with ease. Edward's slash cut a mountain in two, yet the Ant King wasn't even phased. Edward then duplicated himself into three, each creating massive Rasen shuriken of different attributes. The impacts of the chakra attacks caused earthquakes across the continent. Meanwhile, Tiga directed survivors to pillage monster corpses for their cores, hauling them back to the purification machine. Edward kept one duplicate dedicated only to portal travel, focusing all his strength on the fight. The machine, resembling a particle collider, dissolved the cores and created a cloud that fed into massive tubes. The cloud grew and grew, eventually engulfing the entire survivor camp. As more cores were added, the cloud expanded until it reached the battlefield. 20 kilometers away. The Ant King was confused by the sudden green gas surrounding them, but unaffected. Hey, I have to finish this early. I want to see the beginning of the new world, so I'm going to end this in one attack, Edward said. The Ant King smirked. If you had that, you'd have done it hours ago. He thought Edward was bluffing. Edward tilted his head slightly in agreement. He held his sword in front of him and activated his eternal Mangekyo again. I can't believe I got this ability, he muttered softly. Isn't this Pride's ability from the 7 deadly sins? Sin of Pride, Escaner's ability? Invincible under the sun. However, he could only use it when the sun was at its peak, and only for 5 minutes. His sun-shaped eyes spun, and red flames burst out from him. The air trembled. Dust and stone vibrated violently as if the world itself feared the heat. Edward's aura burned so brightly that the green purification cloud above turned crimson. The survivors back at the camp shielded their eyes, some even falling to their knees under the overwhelming pressure. The Ant King's smirk faltered. "What is this?" Edward raised his blade, and the weapon melted, reshaping into a searing pillar of flame. His Susanoo flared behind him, no longer a hollow giant, but a blazing titan with a crown of fire. "This is not bluff," Edward said calmly. "This is my peak." He swung once. The sky cracked. The earth split open in a line that stretched for kilometers. The very air roared like a dying beast as the flame carved a path toward the Ant King. The Ant King crossed his arms, bracing himself. His carapace glowed white-hot, the adamantium-like shell resisting the inferno. But the attack wasn't meant for just his body. Edward's flames didn't burn flesh, they burned the soul. The Ant King shrieked, not from pain of the body, but from something deeper. His legs buckled, his roar shaking the mountains. Edward pressed forward, his voice steady despite the fire consuming him too. "You wanted a fight until one of us fell. So fall." The fiery titan's blade descended, engulfing the Ant King completely. The battlefield vanished in a pillar of fire so tall it pierced the sky. For 5 minutes the world turned into a miniature sun. When the flames finally receded, only one figure remained standing. Edward's armor cracked and shattered, his chakra nearly gone. He dropped his sword and staggered, his body smoking from the effort. The Ant King lay broken in the crater, his carapace shattered, his eyes dim. Yet he still grinned. "Magnificent, truly magnificent." His voice faded as his body dissolved into ash. Edward exhaled sharply, falling to one knee. "It's over." Behind him, the green purification cloud spread fully, cleansing the land. For the first time in decades, the sky began to clear. Edward staggered to the Ant King's body, wanting to make sure he was dead. Then, he saw the core from the Ant King's body lying in plain sight. All his flesh had been burned away, leaving a hollow carapace. Edward picked up the core, the black gold core, and contemplated eating it on the spot. "Well, I'm going to leave anyway. So I'll eat it after I see the new world." He picked up the core, the size of a basketball, and opened a portal back to the survivor camp. However, instead of going to the machine, Edward opened a portal back to his room and flopped down on his bed, unconscious. Tiga immediately flew toward the lab as she saw the portal open. When she found him, she broke into tears. Thank you so much," she sobbed uncontrollably. Edward POV. 10 hours had passed since the battle. I finally regained my strength and went to see how far the cloud had traveled. By AI calculation, in just a few minutes, it would engulf the entire world. The war with the mutated beasts and zombie horde would continue, but the enemy wouldn't be able to replenish their numbers anymore. I had less than a day left in this world. As I saw the kids running around outside the village, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. I've done all I can. I'll leave it all to you now. I held the red Esper fluid in one hand, and the Ant King core in the other. I knew if I kept the core here, it would attract countless hordes to the camp, like how they were drawn to the level 6 core before. So I would eat it to destroy it. Tiga, Suna, Rust, Tyre, and all the survivors of the camp saw me sitting by the window. I waved at them, then swallowed the core after downing the Esper serum. We all knew this was goodbye, so there was no need for words. The girls had already accepted this before the battle started. My veins bulged from the pain of trying to ingest the core. I struggled to breathe and crouched forward. Tiga flew toward me and caught me before I collapsed. Tiga, take care of your colony. She kissed me before I could finish. See, you didn't die. You liar, she teased through tears. Thank you, Edward Newgate. We'll make sure never to forget you. And I too won't forget you. If I have the chance, I'll come visit you. My body cracked under the weight of the serum and the core. Adu suddenly stepped forward and said, "Eddie, I finished the song." "Oh. Sing it quickly," I told her, excited despite everything. "New Genesis, Adu," she sang with a sweet fairy tale voice. We can choose the path of our future. Try a brand new path. If I change the world. If I change the world. The music became upbeat, and I nodded my head along. My eyes were already blurry, so I didn't see Adu crying as she sang. Say goodbye to everyone who stood against us. No one has the power to stop a change that came through music. Because you can't stop magic. Suna grabbed my left hand, and Tiga grabbed my right. Close your eyes and you can see the future before you. Every note I sing is bringing you closer to your purpose. Once you're there, don't let go. I whispered. Adu is really an amazing singer. You want to play a real game? Unfurl the chain. Melodies strung out like we're walking a tightrope. Suna suddenly said, "You gave us our freedom back, Edward. If by any chance you could return here, we will make sure not to disappoint you with what we're going to build." Wanna cry, don't wanna try, wanna forget. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, I told Tiga. Just let me live inside a dreamland. I remember when I first started to teach Adu about music. She was depressed about her Esper ability, and considered herself useless in the world, but I managed to convince her to sing with me. My legs and upper torso dissipated into particles of light. Tiga cried and said, "We will make sure not to waste this chance." And let a brand new era dawn. I know that we can. Create a new world. As if she was saying a vow, Adu sang with all of her emotions. I couldn't hear the ending as my entire body disappeared. The girls didn't know it yet, but I had left a gift in the lab for them to find. Finally, I was returning to my world. General POV. Adu continued singing while the rest were bowing to Edward's dissipating body. We can choose the path of our future. This was the day they would mark in their calendar as the rebirth of the new world. Try a brand new path. Adu's tears dripped from her chin. She wiped her eyes and continued singing even though Edward was gone. If I change the world. If I change the world. She wrote the lyrics based on what Edward promised her before, when he tried to make her practice. You think music won't save the world. But I'm a singer, you know. And I'm pretty sure I can change the world with my melody. Edward patted her hair as she was pouting. This boundless music brings transformation. Messages in song reach even further. This dream will come true. She wanted the song to reach Edward in another world.
僕を信じて
I believe in you. She believed he would be back. The girls cried for a while, the kids and the old man were crying too. After a while, they finally calmed down and returned to their respective jobs to maintain the community. Tiga, Suna and Adu went to his lab. The AI was still there, the robot was still taking care of the clones. Suddenly, all three of them were shocked when they saw a naked man eating some evolution seed, sitting cross-legged on the floor. What the hell, Dash? Adu cursed as she saw the familiar face. Suna asked with astonishment. I thought you had left? What? The man turned, still munching cores in his mouth. Oracle explained. That is not Mr. Newgate. That is his clone. They watched closer, and saw that he had no belly button. Why? I don't understand? Suna was confused. The clone finally finished eating and then stood up in front of them. Other than Adu, the two girls immediately covered their eyes. Hey, you must be Adu, Suna and Tiga. Nice to meet you. He tried to shake hands with the girls, but Adu scolded him. Where's some pants? Complete with memories, implanted by the Sharingan, the copy would live his life in this universe to help the girls build up the civilization. What? I thought this is what you guys wanted. He stood proudly, displaying everything to the girls. His common sense still hadn't fully developed after all. Chapter 410, Return. Edward POV. As I opened my eyes, I was already back in my lab in the original world. I was stark naked, but I quickly used transformation jutsu to create clothing on my body. Robin, Woojin, Yuri, Mikasa, 02, and Hanshao were all in my lab, kneeling on one knee. Welcome back, Lord Newgate. I was taken aback by the greeting and complained. I told you guys not to call me that. Robin, Han, help me with creating the replicator. Straight to work. I didn't want to waste any more time and decided I'd check what happened during the day I was gone once I got started. Would you like some assistance, sir? Robin asked after I handed her the blueprint for the replicator. There's no need. I split myself into 5 people, which startled the android lifeforms. 02 commented. He's getting weirder now. I heard that, I said, which made her giggle nervously. How's Jenna doing? I asked Robin as I directed her to take care of Jenna. She's still under assisted sleep. The antibiotic is helping, but she's not getting any better, Robin replied. I nodded. The death rate? Don't torture yourself with the numbers. It's not your responsibility, no matter how many people died. Robin. I cut her off sternly. She sighed. Only 600 people died worldwide. The antibiotics were too late to reach them. I see. Their families are being compensated by the government, and they have no medical debt. I made sure of it, Robin said firmly. I nodded and went back to work, though I was curious about how she managed that. Robin, call the various doctors around the world into a conference meeting. I'm going to share the cure and let everyone work together to make it. You found a cure, in 1 month? Robin was taken aback. It was the first time I had ever seen her look so shocked. Yeah, the other world had similar research, I replied casually. I called a few scientist friends of mine before the conference, Dr. Amy Farrah Fowler and Dr. Bernadette Rostenkowski-Wulowitz. Hey, what can we do to help? Bernadette asked immediately as the call connected. She was at home, and I could see Howard lounging around in the background. Is that Edward? Howard dropped his phone and walked up to the camera. Amy also joined in. Hey, do you need any help? Were you both standing by in case I called? I asked, slightly touched. Bernadette smiled. Not only us, our entire pharmaceutical staff has been on standby. Amy giggled. After you threatened to kill the Boravian Prime Minister, we figured you were going to need all the help you could get to find the cure. I threatened the Boravian Prime Minister? I was shocked. Howard interjected. That's right. Smart strategy. Fake temporary insanity and keep denying you ever said it. I couldn't tell if he was joking or serious. Anyway, I found the cure, so I'll need worldwide coordination to get it distributed. The virus is airborne, so Amy interrupted. Sorry, I think something's wrong with my connection. Did you say you found the cure? Yes. I'm testing it on a real patient right now, I said dismissively. I opened my mouth to continue, but Bernadette interrupted next. She snapped in her high-pitched voice. You found it in 3 days? Howard asked. Did you do research on this beforehand? Then his eyes widened. Wait, you didn't plan this entire thing, did you? There's no Hargrave, you're the mastermind. Oh. I was slightly taken aback. Is that what it's going to look like? I thought about it for a moment before saying, never mind. I can handle the villain conspiracy theory as long as we survive this plague. Robin suddenly interjected from behind me. It's classified information, but Hargrave sent his research data to Edward and taunted him, saying he can't do anything and let people die. It helped him solve it faster. I turned to Robin, my eyes asking, is it true? She shook her head slightly, telling me no. All three of them looked at me with pity. Howard turned and said, So he's like your nemesis? He's the Joker, you're Batman. But wait, are we going to face another virus even if we survive this one? Robin shook her head. No. Hargrave was struck down by a U.S. military drone last night. He's dead. Oh, thank God! Howard pumped his fist, his face full of celebration. Bernadette and Amy looked relieved too. I wasn't clear about what Robin had planned, but I just followed her lead. Yup. That's exactly what happened, I said. That bastard. Bernadette gritted her teeth. There was an inconceivable amount of hate in him. It should have been directed at the government, but instead, you became his target. Amy added with a pitying tone. Can we stop with all this and get to work? I'm going to release the cure to the world now. I need staff for coordination. I don't trust the people at WHO, I said as I began the conference. Nothing against their ability, but there's too much bureaucratic red tape at WHO, and involving them would only slow things down. The 6-hour lecture on the creation of the cure was joined by 2,000 scientists from around the world. The event was reported by various news outlets, but none of the sensitive information was leaked. After the conference was done, I finally checked the internet. Then I asked Robin, why did the article say I wanted to kill a country's president? In my defense, he deserves it, Robin replied. I was taken aback at first, then I agreed with her. Replicate the cure and make sure it reaches everyone. If the government of a country tries to block it, bypass them. Or destroy them, Robin added. I raised an eyebrow and enunciated. Bypass them. Got it. Destroy them. Robin nodded before walking away. Robin! Make sure not to leave any evidence. I reminded her. She's not going to go crazy. I waved it off and returned to my work. One of my duplicates came to me with the golden sling ring he had recreated. Let's hope this works. I wore the ring and swirled my hand, imagining a portal opening in my mind. Nothing happened at first, but then a small, golden circular spark appeared. Nice. I can create a portal here too. Taking a few doses of the cure with me, I left the house and went to Palisades Hospital. Stealthily, I snuck into Jenna's room using a portal, after my AI confirmed no one was around by tapping into the CCTV feed. Jenna's face was full of contusions and pus. Her beauty was unrecognizable. Without saying anything, I injected the cure into her arm. I waited for a few minutes and saw that the cure was doing its job. It would take some time for the blemishes to disappear, maybe 1 or 2 days. Then, I did the same for Jenna's mother, and every single patient in the hospital. 20 people were quarantined there, all infected by the virus. The world celebrated when they heard about the cure being found. Yet, there were a lot of mixed reactions too. Some questioned the validity of the cure, demanding further testing. Some believed the virus wasn't anything serious. Some claimed the entire plague was a hoax for the government to inject brain-controlled chips into people's blood. Let's have the government handle that, I muttered. The main issue was the airborne virus. Even if the cure was made, people would still get infected, and the cure might not reach those with weak immune systems. To protect the vulnerable, I created a smaller version of the chemical cloud purification device I had once used in the Zom world. By targeting cities instead of the entire world, I planned to stop the spread of the virus within 2 months. Which means that in 2 months people have to stay inside their houses, I muttered. It was COVID's lockdown all over again. I suddenly thought of something and began calling my talents. I need to make sure no one from my side sings Imagine and starts the snowball effect leading to the eventual collapse of Hollywood's star image. Social media truly was the bane of Hollywood celebrities. A few days passed. I bypassed a lot of the trials for the cure and sent it directly to hospitals, earning outrage from members and some government officials. However, the cure did work. Thousands had already woken up from assisted sleep, and their pus-filled skin had dried up. Within a single day, the narrative shifted, from me being an egotistical madman to the one and only savior of humankind. A narrative I didn't even control. I visited Jenna a few minutes before she woke up from her sleep. The female doctor there narrowed her eyes at me suspiciously and said, "How did you get into the room without anyone noticing? When did you administer the cure?" "I don't know what you're talking about." I played dumb, my attention fixed on Jenna. I took out my phone and recorded her face as she was waking up. The doctor rolled her eyes and threw up her hands. "I'm not going to hold you accountable for anything. Just tell me the truth. The truth is, I can open a portal anywhere in the world, and I used that portal to sneak into the room late at night," I told her. "Fine. Don't tell me." She relented, assuming I was making up outrageous lies to trick her. The doctor was one of my acquaintances. I owned this hospital. All of my employees received free healthcare here. "Edward, is that you?" Jenna slowly opened her eyes, still dazed. I held her hand and said, "I'm right here." "You're okay now, Jen?" "Really? Was I really cured? Or is this heaven?" she muttered with slight confusion. I chuckled. "Unfortunately, you're still on Earth. I guess that's true. If I were in heaven, you'd be shirtless." Jenna smiled faintly, which made the doctor snort. I turned to her and said, "Are you here just to watch?" "Oh. Right. Miss Mackenzie, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" The doctor immediately went to work, checking up on the patient to ensure there were no side effects from the disease. There was a high risk of brain damage if patients were exposed to alien pox for an extended period, so we had to run a thorough examination on Jenna. Thankfully, there were no side effects for her. Jenna and her mother reunited that night, hugging each other while crying and sobbing. Her mom was filled with guilt, knowing she had been the carrier of the virus that almost killed her only daughter. Back at my place, 5 days after the cure helped save the world. "The infection rate has finally gone down," I said, finally relaxing my shoulders. As I massaged my neck, I sat down on the couch and said to Oracle, "Still, don't slack off. Right now, I'm more afraid of humans than the virus." Oracle commented, "We can have a fresh start." Robin said she could eliminate all the Congress members in less than a day. "Let's put that as Plan B," I interjected. I wasn't sure what had happened while I was gone, but my androids were all trying to push me into resetting the world. They believed it would be better for the country to fall under my hand rather than let self-interested people run the government. It only got worse when the cops came to strap a device to my leg. Yeah, I was on house arrest. Robin almost short-circuited when she heard that. Suddenly, Alex called me through video. I picked it up and saw Luke, Alex, and Haley on the screen, in that order. "Hey, you got arrested?" Luke asked, almost excited. "Yup." I lifted my leg, showing the ankle monitor. Alex and Haley gasped in disbelief, while Luke grinned and said, "Awesome. Now you're a felon." "Not exactly." I pursed my lips and squinted. They can't charge me with anything since they have no evidence. I volunteered to put this on. Evidence of what? Did you actually slice off that Boravian president's neck? Alex gasped in horror. Haley frowned. Why are you even volunteering? Shouldn't you already be out of the country by now? I actually did slice the Boravian president's neck while he was asleep. After the cure was found, he wouldn't stop clamoring about putting me under arrest for threatening him, so I opened a portal to his bedroom and nicked the skin on his throat, not fatal, but enough to prove I wasn't bluffing. He immediately changed his tune. And when the country decided to put me on house arrest anyway, he went on social media begging for mercy. But the issue wasn't with him. Why did they arrest you? Alex asked after forcing herself to calm down. It's because the cure kept showing up for free in countries that tried to make their citizens pay for it, I replied casually. The procedure was thrown out the window once they started playing their games, so I bypassed them all to reach the patients. Oh. So they're arresting you, for saving people? Haley was taken aback. Luke scowled. That's lame. Then he walked away. The government wouldn't ignore someone disrupting the system, even if it meant millions would die because of it. Alex commented. So you're using the ankle monitor to prove your innocence while your subordinates hand out the cure for you? Yup. The work is almost done anyway, so I'm just resting at home. This doesn't affect me at all. I smirked slightly. Besides, you can already see the negative impact of the government's decision on social media. If we weren't in lockdown, there would be protests in the streets, I added. True. Haley picked up her phone and showed her DMs. A bunch of people are asking me if you're alright. There's also a guy hitting on you in your DMs. His opening line. I squinted at the screen. I'm going to spread your legs like peanut butter and jelly on bread? What? Oh. That guy's from my college. He's a little weird. Haley brushed it off, fluttering her eyes nervously. Anyway, since you can't leave your house, do you want me to come and keep you company? She offered. That might not be a bad idea, I admitted meekly. I also want to meet Vader's kittens, so if you could stop by my place and pick them all up for me. Sure. I'll go get ready now. Haley skipped away happily. Alex was left alone on the screen. You sure about this? She asked. About what? I asked back, confused. Alex narrowed her eyes. I'm not sure if you're pretending not to notice, or if your brain's just fried from all the stress. I tilted my head, still clueless about what she meant. Alex grinned. I'm sure you'll find out soon. Alex, you goof, I said awkwardly. I'm going to take a little nap, so goodbye for now. Alex waved goodbye as I cut the call. Before I could sleep, another call came in. Actually, a few of them. From my ex-girlfriends. First it was Taylor, then Abby, then Nessa. Even Annie called. I guess they had all been worried since everything went down, but they didn't want to disturb me while I was working. Now that the news was out that I wasn't doing much, they finally reached out. Taylor called for just a minute, acted annoyed the whole time, and hung up once I mentioned that Haley was coming over. Abby was in New York, and she was more interested in the virus. I sent her some of my research papers to read. Nessa decided to stop by too, just to check up on me. When I appeared at the World Leaders Conference before, she'd been extremely shocked by my brash behavior. She admitted she'd wanted to call earlier, but was afraid I'd cuss her out like I did with them, so she didn't. You really thought I was going to cuss you out? I looked at her in disbelief. She shrugged. You were in a bad mood. It was a fair assumption. It's not fair for you. You know me. I would never do that to you, I said, flashing her a sincere look. Nessa seemed struck by guilt, and she offered to come keep me company too. My thoughts drifted to Zomworld as I waited for the girls. 1 day here meant 1 month over there, and I had already been gone for a week. 7 months. I guess they've achieved a lot by now, huh? I was woken up from my nap by the doorbell alarm. When I opened the door, Haley was standing there with a pink suitcase by her side and a basket of kittens on the other. Vader walked into the house without greeting me, as if saying, "The kiddos are your problem now." "Hey!" Haley greeted me casually as she waltzed inside. "I only brought some clothes for 3 days, so I'm going to need to borrow your clothes afterward." Wait! I finally realized what Alex had been talking about. Just behind Haley, Nessa also arrived with her own luggage. "Hey, I saw that Haley is here," Nessa said awkwardly. "So how do you want to do this?" "I'm honestly fine with it if we're keeping things casual." "Do what?" "Edward, aren't you going to play with the kitties?" Haley called from behind me. I turned around, startled by her words, only to see her holding the kittens up to her face. "Oh. Right. Kittens." I rubbed my sore forehead. The girls were clearly planning to stay here for the entire month during lockdown. "This is quite a dangerous situation I'm finding myself in." I gulped as I watched them giggling together on the couch before both of them batted their eyes at me seductively. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.